Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor was a later addition to the expanded universe canon, and covered a period of galactic history that up to that point had been largely ignored. More importantly, it covers Luke Skywalker's last mission as a member of the New Republic military.
6 months have passed since the Battle of Endor and the conflict at Bakura, and much has changed in the galaxy. The Rebel Alliance is gone, replaced by the New Republic. The Empire is fractured into a number of competing claimants. Sate Pastage, and later the head of Imperial Intelligence, Zane Isard, rule the Imperial Corps from Coruscant. Warlord Singe controls the largest single fleet and rules his own small fiefdom from Sereno. And several other smaller warlords rule their own areas of the galaxy, such as Admiral Harsk, Admiral Pterodoc, and General Delvardis. There is also an unusual amassing of Imperial forces and material occurring in the deep core, and Grand Admiral Thrawn's task force in the unknown regions to account for. Though the Emperor has been killed, the Empire is still a major threat to the galaxy. Out of this chaos appears a new threat, Lord Shadowspawn, a mysterious dark side user who commands a fleet of TIE defenders, TIE fighters with increased shields, armor, and firepower. Lord Shadowspawn's forces have been wreaking havoc across the galaxy from a hidden base somewhere in the deep inner rim. These TIE defenders will lie in wait and attack high-value targets, raiding them of valuables, kidnapping certain passengers, and increasing instability across the galaxy. Luke Skywalker has been promoted to general since his exploits at Bakura. His first assignment in his new role is to lead the New Republic Defense Force in locating and eliminating Lord Shadowspawn. The initial operation involving Rogue Squadron is successful in locating Shadowspawn's base of operation, Mindor, within the Taspin system. After initial research, it is discovered that the Taspin system suffered a cataclysmic research accident involving gravity projectors that destroyed one of the planets in the system. Since the debris from the planet's destruction has not settled into a regular orbit, the system is protected from any entry by any large-scale attack by capital ships. Any assault on the planet will be difficult, time-consuming, and deadly. The operation to defeat Shadowspawn is a resounding success. The NRDF's complement of fighters and bombers jump into the system and blitz Shadowspawn's base. Republic bombers make several runs on the base's defenses, while the fighters mop up any aerial resistance they receive. With the base neutralized, the capital ships jump into the outskirts of the system and await a response from Shadowspawn. One comes almost immediately. Shadowspawn approaches the fleet in a small civilian transport under a banner of peace. Everyone celebrates the decisive victory. Everyone except for one, Luke Skywalker. Something about this situation does not seem right to Luke, but he can't put his finger on just what it is. As Shadowspawn's shuttle nears the flagship of the Defense Force, Luke realizes what the problem is, but it is too late. The shuttle explodes, ripping the flagship into 3 pieces. TIE defenders, previously hidden within an asteroid field, appear and begin massacring the Republic forces in the system. In a harrowing feat of skill, Luke manages to pilot the remaining section of his ship to land on the desolate planet of Mindor, not entirely unlike his father's actions in the waning weeks of the Clone Wars. Meanwhile, Han and Chewie are attending Leia during her attempts to negotiate a ceasefire with a group of Mandalorians, working for the Empire, that have taken a planet hostage. During the negotiations, Leia senses distress from Luke through the Force. Han checks into the operation at Mindor and finds that the entire battle group has been lost to contact and goes to check on him. Shortly after this, Leia decides to go check on Luke herself and commandeers Rogue Squadron for the mission. Following this, Lando Calrissian decides to follow, along with Mandalore Finn Shissa and his super commandos. Back on Mindor, Luke surrenders to Lord Shadowspawn's forces and is brought face to face with the Imperial leader. After declaring that all his troops are to obey Luke should he defeat him, Lord Shadowspawn launches an attack against the Jedi. During the fight, Luke gets an odd feeling from the man before him. After considering all the facts, Luke realizes the problem. The whole scenario is nothing more than a production, a charade. The man before him is not Shadowspawn, but only a mind-controlled slave named Nick. In fact, Shadowspawn is not real at all. He is just a creation of someone else, someone Luke has encountered before behind the guise of another manufactured enemy, Black Hole. The man behind this is an Imperial agent known as Chronal. Chronal is a worshipper of the dark, his understanding of the Force, who is bent on the destruction of all things. He intends to use a substance native to Mindor, a semi-conscious, malleable rock known as Melt Massive, to take over Luke's body and use it to establish a new empire and use that empire to begin a reign of destruction across the galaxy. He captures Luke, incapacitates him, and begins the process of taking over Luke's body. Meanwhile, Han, Leia, and Rogue Squadron have arrived in the system. While Han and Leia go down to the surface to look for Luke, Rogue Squadron remains in space, fighting the Imperial forces to clear out an exit path for the Falcon. While on the planet, Han and Leia meet some rebel forces trapped there, led by a woman named Iona, who end up stealing the Falcon and rampaging through the atmosphere. Lando and Finn Shissa arrive with Lando's fleet and begin assaulting Shadowspawn's base. Demonstrating his great power, Luke manages to escape from his confinement and frees Nick from his mind control. When attempting to do the same for a large number of slaves in a similar state, a kill switch within the headgear they all wear activates and kills them all. Luke is devastated by this, but knows he must continue onward. It is also at this time that Chronal realizes the difficulty in taking over Luke's body and senses an even better target for body takeover, Leia, and turns his attention to capturing her. Luke and Nick work their way through the complex, Luke still suffering from the effects of Cronus' attempted takeover of his body and the remaining existential crisis, and encounter Shadowspawn's troopers. They kneel to him, declaring their undying obedience to Emperor Skywalker. Luke orders them to care for the slaves present and then follows the leading of the Force to a particular location, right as Iona crashes the Falcon there. After a brief confrontation, it is discovered that Nick and Iona are old acquaintances, and all agree to work together to find Han, Leia, and Chewbacca and defeat Cronus. Cronus attacks Han and Leia with creatures that exist within the Melt Massive and captures Leia, leaving Han stranded in the underground caverns of Mindor. Meanwhile, Luke pilots the Falcon through those same caverns, following the leading of the Force to Han's location. After finding him, Luke uses the Melt Massive creatures known as Melters to locate Leia. Meanwhile, the battle above the planet is not going well. Shadowspawn's forces far outnumber the Republic forces, and only constant orbital bombardment prevents the large gravity gun and smaller ion cannons from being used against the fleet. However, the planet continues to rotate toward the system's sun, thereby exposing the fleet to deadly radioactive rays, placing a time limit on the battle. Chronal issues an order to have gravity wells activated on his base, causing the entire base to lift up from the planet and begin rising into space. Lando, recognizing the hopelessness of the situation and realizing the threat to the galaxy Shadowspawn would pose if he escaped the system, commits his forces to what amounts to a suicide mission. At the last moment, a transmission goes out across the system from Emperor Skywalker. All Imperial forces are to stand down, surrender, and offer whatever assistance they can to Republic forces. To Lando's shock, the Imperials begin complying with these orders. Luke confronts the main body Chronal is using, that of Kar Vaster, and gives him an ultimatum. Nick and Iona have discovered Chronal's location in a control chamber located within a meteor fleeing the system and are on their way to destroy it. If Chronal will abandon Kar's body, leaving Leia to Luke, he can get away before they arrive to kill him. If not, he may defeat Luke but will ultimately perish. Chronal decides to abandon his efforts to fight another day, but not before enacting his final horrific plan. He causes the Melt Massive, located in all the bodies of his forces, to attack their hosts. The stormtroopers immediately collapse in agony, and the TIE Defender pilots turn their ships toward the nearest New Republic ship and begin suicide runs at them. Luke uses the connection created by Chronal to direct the light of the Force at him, causing him to lose control of the asteroid he is hurtling through hyperspace in. His body is evaporated. As he dies, Luke is able to release the Melt Massive contained in all of Chronal's soldiers, pilots, and slaves. Unfortunately, this triggers kill switches located within each of them. Within moments, the death toll is in the thousands, and Luke feels every one of them. At the last moment, the remaining New Republic ships were able to rescue all the survivors and forge a route out of the system before the unstable gravity well in the system ripped the planet apart. They leave victorious, but not without great loss. Luke Skywalker, so disgusted by the severe loss of life, resigns his commission from the New Republic military, never to hold rank again. Lando followed suit not long after. Though it was costly, the victory was a significant achievement for the young New Republic, demonstrating its ability to wage war against a significant foe. Through the first two books of the expanded universe, there have been few significant changes in the makeup of the galaxy. The New Republic is still primarily a government without an official territory. Several planets are considered supporters of the New Republic, like Mon Calamari, Bothawi, and Celeste, but there is still no official New Republic space. During this time, Mon Mothma has been busy spreading Republic influence through diplomatic negotiations, and that Republic territory is on the verge of beginning to solidify. In its bid for galactic control, the New Republic needs to do several things. The first is demonstrating its ability to project strength and defend its members and allies from foreign threats. This was achieved in the Truce at Bakura, when the New Republic, as the Rebel Alliance at the time, was able to defend Bakura and repel the Shuruk invaders, something that not even the Empire was able to do. Next, it needs to demonstrate its ability to wage war as an official government entity and not as a roving picket force against a significant threat and emerge victorious. This is achieved in this book. Lord Shadowspawn represented a sizable threat to galactic peace, and the New Republic was able to defeat him. The final thing the Republic needs to do is to establish its legitimacy by gathering allies and choosing a capital. In our next book, it will begin to lay the groundwork for doing just that as it sets its eyes on Coruscant. Have you read Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor? If not, check it out. If so, let me know what you thought about it down below. Thank you for watching.